Liftoff. Chapter 5. Old Joe, looking at Molly, remarked, "It had to be said. We just can't go on pretending it isn't happening. People leave here, and when they do, they don't return. Good people like the librarian. The real question is, why do they go, and are they still alive when they reach their destination? There are rumors that the architect disclosed this information to a select few, but now the architect is gone." Molly, free at last to speak her mind, added, "Such information may not be lost after all. This is why I was recruited to participate in studies of trying to communicate images at a distance. Perhaps all one needs is a sensitive enough antenna to capture auditory and visual information flowing around us. The whole of our history may be within our reach." "But I was under the impression you knew your histories," mumbled Sam. "I thought I was the odd man out. Now you're saying you hold some of our collective memories. But if I understand you, a greater portion remains hidden." "Well," Zeke noted, "that only makes sense. As our brains developed, over time we started to recall earlier events. But we are all flawed. We have to rely on the memories of older folks among us to find out what comes before." Artie listened intently and remarked, "Hey, you know something? All is not lost. We got a good description of the vehicle, that old Buick, and we even know something of the launch pad, if that is what it is. All is need now is for some constant surveillance of that field and parking lot, and keep a lookout for the old Buick." Old Joe burst forth, "Just a steady hand on the tiller. Is that it, Artie?" Artie nodded in agreement. "That, and we have to find a way to sneak a person on board for the next trip." This announcement hung in the air for a while before coming to rest on the floor. But while it was in the air, everyone seemed to be caught up in a state of suspended animation. The idea of venturing into an unknown was bad enough, but volunteering to do so seemed foolhardy at best. Walter was caught off guard. "Are you nuts? You better think this over. We all better think it through. Didn't I hear earlier from old Joe that nobody ever returns?" Artie shrugged off the suggestion. "That doesn't mean someone couldn't. Maybe the desire to do so wasn't there. Maybe these people were implicated in their own disappearance. Could be they were willing participants. So where do we begin? I mean, do you want to draw straws to see who goes first?" "I think the answer is obvious," voiced Zeke. "Artie suggested it. I, for one, vote for Artie." "I think I would like to go," Molly stated. "I was in that Buick myself when Anna and Herb entered, and I can tell you this much. They did seem to go willingly. At least it appeared that way. But it was like they were somehow in a daze. Remember, Joe, how they just left the booth and walked right out into the Buick without saying a word, and we were pulled along with them to watch their departure from the parking lot. We didn't protest or offer any resistance. I still wonder about that. Oh, and I can tell you one further detail. When they got into the back seat and the Buick pulled out, there wasn't any driver either." Artie gave a low whistle. "Well, well, well. Just when we thought we were caught in a complete mystery, more and more details come pouring out. Zeke, Walter and I know something. We all hold pieces of information, and so do you two. Collectively, we are 5 people who all hold knowledge. I suggest we give our heads a shake and see what falls out." Molly, seeing how Sam had been passed over, remarked, "What about poor old Sam here? Can't forget about him, can we?" Sam, peered out from behind his coffee cup, seemed unfazed. I'll go, Sam stated. How do I prepare?
That's the $100 question, stated Artie. To put it differently, how do we get the Buick to show up here again? What is the reason it came in the first place? Why here and not somewhere else? What is it about this place? Joe, I think you might be better able to answer this than any of us.
You know, it's sort of unfair to point at me, protested old Joe. Maybe there have been a few incidents before, but what happens to people when they walk out of that door really has nothing to do with me. I was never present at another leaving or kidnapping, whatever you may call it, until this last one. And as Molly pointed out, it was like being in a trance. We just did what we did automatically. We didn't think of asking a question. We walked out, they walked out, they got in the Buick and drove off. We came back inside. Why here? You might as well ask, why not?
Zeke thought things over.
You know the old saying, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it might just be a duck.
Old Joe addressed Zeke and held up a mug.
Tell me, what shape is this coffee mug? Want to play games, eh? It's kind of tube shape with one end of the tube plugs. How's that? What shape is the handle? Can you describe a mug without describing the handle? It's the shape of a C-clamp without the screw to adjust it. What of the heights of the sides? I fail to see what that has to do with anything. In order to be classified as a mug, the sides have to be a certain height above the base. What has all this got to do with anything? Try giving someone who asks for a mug a tube with one end plugged and a C-clamp glued to the side and see what happens. I asked you to describe a coffee mug and I had to drag the information out of you. You were asking me to describe a mystery as if I could unravel it with very little thought, or as if I knew the answers as to why whatever is happening in this parking lot happens. I didn't sign any contract. Nobody asked my permission.
You know, Artie remarked, what we are missing are the connections. The connections between that field and here and Billingsworth itself, I guess. We can't really figure those connections out until we discover the connections between ourselves. And even that's tricky, because while some of us are, let's say, supposed to be here, others might have simply wandered in, like people do everywhere. If that's the case, then their mere presence might serve to throw us off.
You could say the same thing,
observed Zeke,
about people who are supposed to be here but haven't shown up yet, like an actor who's supposed to make an entrance in the second act and doesn't appear until the third.
Well, as far as that goes, said Artie, aside from us five along with Anna Dog-Eared and Herb Handrolled, the cafe, and Billingsworth, should we look any further? Or if doing so, are we just muddying the waters? Walter added, let's not forget the old Buick or the field. There is a narrative being told here. There must be a way to unravel it, but we need all the pieces assembled to do that.
Walt, old boy, Zeke noted, I think you've got something there. And if we're lucky, it's not catching. To my mind, it's all about the Buick. Somehow, someway, we've got to get it to appear again.
Artie, suddenly being hit by an idea, lifted his head with a jerk. If it did come back, we know where it would go. It would head out to that field again. What do you do when you lose something? Why, you go looking for it in the last place you remember seeing it. We gotta go back to that field, all right.
and I say we go tonight.